The following presentation was recorded live in Las Vegas, Nevada for the 27th Annual International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is tape 17, Smoothness.
Good morning. Nice to have you all here. All right, we'll let everybody come in and get settled down. All right, come on down. Okay, I think we do have a chair up here, and I think there are probably a few in the back. We wish to welcome all of you to our seminar here. This seminar is on smoothness, smooth dancing. And I will remind you that this session is being taped, and if we have a remote mic, we'll run it around. Otherwise, I'm going to have you, when you have questions after a while, to step forward, and we will use the microphone so all the questions get on the tape. Okay, first of all, I would like to introduce our panel and everybody to you. Wayne, can you see if we can find some more chairs? Okay, if you would do that, please. My name is Jerry Junck. I'm from Wayne, Nebraska in the summertime. I'm from Mesa, Arizona in the wintertime. I'm an accredited caller coach, and we're really glad to have you here. This is a subject that's kind of dear to my heart, and one that I don't think perhaps we pay enough attention to. And we've got two panelists that are going to help me with this presentation. I've got Larry Davenport here. He is from Foster City, California. And if you would, give him a nice hand. Larry's been calling 15 years, going on 16 years. His mentor is sitting in the audience, and Larry, quite frankly, is nervous because you're here, John, but that's all right. On my far left, and one of the things that I love about CALLERLAB is that we are truly an international organization. And as I said in the orientation the other night, I think we need to be much more open with our vision and maybe not so parochial in our beliefs. And it's really great that we have callers from overseas, callers from other countries here at this convention, because they also face some of the same problems we have. They also have different problems that they have to deal with. And this year on this panel, we've got a lady from Zurich, Switzerland. And I worked all yesterday on this name, Jeanette Staeuble.
Yeah, got it.
And for a guy from Nebraska, that ain't easy. Again, we're glad to have you here. What we're going to talk about is smoothness in dancing. And I wanted to read you the charge that was given us. And the charge says, we call it dancing, or we call it square dancing. But do we call so that people can dance? Do we watch the entire floor, or do we just see what's going on in front? The tools we have that improve the dance experience include choreographic smoothness, timing, selection of music, delivery, and as you will see later on by some of the comments, many other elements that affect smooth dancing, maybe some that you haven't thought about. In this session, you're going to see, hear, and experience the difference between executing calls and dancing. And I'll be real honest with you. It is my personal opinion that we have lost dancers because we become too intrigued with choreography and forgotten or simply ignored the fact that people came to dance. That's my opinion. And I think that's something we need to be aware of. I think a lot of people have quit square dancing because it became puzzle solving and not dancing. That's a personal opinion. Smooth dancing involves a great deal more than knowing the timing charts. To be sure, there are elements in smooth dancing that are strictly technical: timing, tempo, delivery, knowledge of choreography, knowledge of formations, the awareness of the various formations. All that has to do with timing, knowledge of the definitions and how to use them. Those are things that are technical in nature, things that are finite, that are written down, that we can go to work on our presentations and on our calling. But there are many more things that maybe we don't think about that are part of smooth dancing. For instance, body flow, hall size, space availability, overflow. There are so many things involved in smooth dancing that maybe we haven't thought about. So the two panelists are going to give you a presentation, and as I said earlier, I will ask a square to get up, or they will ask a square to get up whenever they feel they would like to show what they're talking about. We're going to start with Larry, and he's going to start with some of those technical aspects of smooth dancing. So if you would, welcome Larry Davenport.
Thank you, Jerry. I think I'm going to start off with an advertisement first. I came to CALLERLAB convention this year without a lot of the information I thought I was going to bring with me, packing at the last minute. So I went by the booth out front to see what I could find that I could get. And I don't know how many of you have seen, and this is the CALLERLAB starter kit for newer callers. I really think it's misnamed in a sense. I think it should just be called the CALLERLAB kit for callers. A lot of the information that we're going to talk about today are in here. These handouts do appear in here as well. But if you want to be able to refresh yourselves on various aspects of the activity in one nice handy-dandy little binder, I think this is it. So anyway, my part of this is to talk about the timing aspect of smoothness. And the way I think about it is that timing is really the foundation on which smooth dancing is built. All the other stuff that's going to come later in terms of how you use your choreography, the body flow, the smoothness, that's very important. But if you don't have the timing aspects, that technical aspect of timing down, you're not really going to be particularly successful with smooth dancing. Smooth dancing is moving to the music. When we've gone to dances individually, we've experienced different types of dancing. I think we've all experienced dances where at the end of the evening, boy, I felt rushed tonight. I just felt like I could never keep up. And there's a timing technical reason for that I'm going to talk about. You've been to other dances where, boy, I spent the whole night just standing around, never knew what was coming next and had plenty of time before it came. I think we've all experienced that, and I'll talk a little bit about that as it is a factor of timing. I think we've all experienced some dances, hopefully, where you didn't really, you start at 8 o'clock, and next time you look at your watch, it's 11 o'clock, and you don't know where the time went. And you just had a great time, and it's been exhilarating rather than tiring. And I think that's what smooth timing and proper timing is all about. And so what I'm going to talk about is spend some time talking about the technical aspects of timing that contribute to smooth timing. And no discussion of timing can really start without talking about what timing is and the three parts to timing. And the three parts to timing are the command time, the lead time, and the execution time. Command time, and I'm looking at I see that this is not one of the handouts we have, but it is in the book that I've just shown you with the definitions on it. But let me read here. Command time is defined as the amount of time it takes to give the command to be executed. Generally speaking, this should be done in no more than 2 beats. And we all know there are some exceptions. If you look at a call like spin chain through or spin chain exchange the gears, to try to get that out in 2 beats might be tough. And so it's no more than 2 beats with those kinds of exceptions. This particular paper talks about the fact that a good exercise to help with timing is just to practice the commands. And Jerry mentioned that John Kaltenthaler, who I spent a long apprenticeship with, is here, and he spent a lot of time showing me this exercise and making me do this exercise. And so what I wanted to do is, this doesn't require dancers, it just requires a piece of music. But if you want to practice command time and practice giving it in 2 beats, what you want to do is not spend a lot of time calling, but you want to take a list of the calls, and I've got the CALLERLAB mainstream program list here, and let me show you what I mean. The point is you're not putting together choreography, but you're just taking the calls in the order. Get a piece of music with a nice beat to it so you can clearly hear it, and you want to just circle left, forward and back, do-si-do, swing, promenade, allemande left. And you're just going down the list, and you're practicing being able to give those calls in 2 beats. And that's going to help you get control, if you will, of command time. Now, the next one that I want to talk about is lead time. Lead time is defined as the amount of time you give the command prior to the dancers beginning the execution of that command. According to the sheet I'm looking at here, generally it should be limited to between 2 and 4 beats, with 2 beats being the norm. And lead time means that this is when you are actually giving that command. The dancers need to hear that command and then translate it into doing the action. If you give that command too soon, the dancers are going to go right with you and begin the action. If you give the command too late, the dancers don't have the command for them when they need it. They've got to wait for you. And I'll demonstrate that just a little bit. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you give the command of the call that the dancer is supposed to execute so that they have been able to translate that into what they're going to do with their feet when they need to do it. And that is what comes back to what I said in the introduction with regard to the fact that sometimes you feel rushed or sometimes you feel like you're waiting around. It really has to do with when that command is being given in terms of what the lead time is. If you give dancers 4 beats ahead of time, 6 beats ahead of time, or something really bad in that manner, they're not going to wait until the music says, do the call. They're going to try to keep up with you, and they're going to continue to feel rushed. And if you don't give them enough time, they'll try to fit it in anyway. If you wait until too late to give them if you only give them 1 beat ahead of time or no beats ahead of time, they don't know what to do next. When the music says to do something, they have to wait. That's stop and go. Can I get a square real quick, and I'll try to demonstrate that briefly so that hopefully you can see it. I'll try to exaggerate it so that you can see it from sitting down, and hopefully the square can feel it. Okay. By the way, I'll just put a disclaimer in here right now. This is not necessarily a presentation on sight resolution, so if I don't get them back, that wasn't part of the program. We'll bow to the partner, bow to the corner, head square through, in the middle go 4. Do-si-do with the ones you meet. Swing through right here. Boy run around the girl. Ferris wheel. Centers pass through. Alaman left with the corner. Square your sets. Now how did that feel? Did that feel like you had it when you needed it? Let's try this. Head square through 4. Do-si-do. Swing through. Boy run right. Ferris wheel. Now they're doing a lot of nice adjustment. They're waiting for the music. They weren't really pass through, Alaman left, come back. Now obviously I was giving them not enough time to do anything there, and they were doing a good job of remembering the string of calls and dancing to the music anyway, but you still had a certain feeling of being rushed. Sides, we'll pick on the sides this time. Sides square through. Do-si-do. Swing through. Boy run. Ferris wheel. Pass through. Now they all have their hands ready. They're ready to go, but I didn't give them a call yet. Alaman left. Come back, square your sets. All right, that was meant to be highly exaggerated. Hopefully nobody does quite that at their dances, but you certainly felt like you had to stop. And everybody... Pardon? Now, for the purpose of the tape, that particular comment will not get on the tape. One of my friends saying that's what they had the last time they danced to me. So thank you, Square. Anyway, so that's what I just want to demonstrate just briefly. So that's command time and lead time, and the third part that I want to talk about is execution time. Execution time is described as the most precise of the 3 timing elements and is defined as the amount of time measured in beats, steps to the music, that are required to dance the command comfortably. And there was a lot of work done here within CALLERLAB, and as this sheet indicates, the work pioneered by Dick Ledger and his committee and carried on by Bob Wilson and the timing committee. And it really, the timing has been worked out from basic through A2, and that's I think that's still correct where we've stopped with that. So, and there are lists available that tell you what the timing is for these various programs. And again, you can get these lists if you don't already have them. You should have them. If you don't know what the execution time is, you should spend some time with those lists and get comfortable with what the execution time is, because I talked about the lead time, and I talked about the stop and go and the too fast or too short a lead time that gets into the rush situation. That might be because a caller doesn't understand when to give the command. It might be because the caller doesn't understand how many beats it takes to complete a call. And if you don't know how many beats of time it takes for a dancer to complete a call, you don't know when to give the next command. And so I think that's part of what you have to take into consideration when you think about that. Another aspect of command time, lead time, and execution time that I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about as part of this session is the fact to know your music and to know what beats of the music that you want to give that command on. If we can go back to the record for just a minute. This particular record, which I just bought a new copy because my old one's getting worn out, for anybody who's interested, this is on the ESP label, and the tune is called Bones. Nice, steady beat, easy to get the beat. Everybody's feet probably just sort of naturally start tapping that beat. And this is a record where you can really pick out the 8-beat phrase in it at any given time. 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can hear if you think about it, if you think about the beats you're hearing here, if you think where the beat number 1 and beat number 5 is, there's an emphasis on them. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are the key, at least to me, and there are 2 other beats in there that I won't spend time getting to, referred to as the secondary beats, the number 3 and number 7 of that series. But those are the key beats to think of, because if you can give your dancers that beat number 1 or that beat number 5 to step off on, that's really going to add to the sense of dancing to the music. And so that means when you talk about your lead time, you've got to think about where in that record you're actually giving that lead time. If you're giving your lead time on 2 and 3 and give the dancer 4, you can ruin the rhythm of the feel of the dance if you do that. If you give you take 7 and 8 as your lead time and give the dancer beat number 1 to step off on, that dance is going to feel more comfortable. That dancer is going to feel more comfortable. Now, in modern Western square dancing, at least as I use it, I'm not going to talk about the whole area of proper timing and always giving the dancer number 1 and making sure that you're always pre-planning to use the 8-beat phrase. That's really, I'd rather talk about just what a lot of us, I think, use in terms of square dancing today. And you may not always be giving your dancer beat 1. You may not always be giving your dancer beat 5. But you should be cognizant of it. And in your calling, as many times as possible, you should be giving your lead time, give the command on 7 and 8, or 3 and 4, so the dancer can have 1 or 5. And it will really add to the dancing experience. Okay, let me see where I am in my notes at the moment, and how am I on time. Okay, we'll move it right along then. Because most of what I wanted to get into was the command time, the lead time, the execution time. And before I stop, what I want to do is I would just want to leave you with some thoughts on other aspects of how to use this thing. I'm not going to get into a discussion of choreography in any kind of depth here, but I'm going to touch on the fact that degree of difficulty affects how you're going to use timing. I talk about execution time and what is comfortable for dancers, but depending on the material you're using, the level of difficulty, the degree of difficulty, if you will, for the dancer to complete the executions on the floor with the figures you're using, you may find that you've got it in your mind that I've got the perfect timing and the perfect execution for what I'm calling, but you look out on the floor and it just doesn't seem to be working. because you've got some folks that are struggling over here, you've got some folks that are just super zipping along over here, and they're waiting for the next call, and you're trying to figure out what to do. Well, I guess the aspect I want to leave you with is while you keep the technical aspects of timing in mind, you've also got to keep the aspects of what's happening on your floor, what are the conditions of the floor that night, what are the experience levels of the dancers you're calling to, how is your choreography fitting them as far as their ability to move through the music, and you've got to be able to make some adjustments and be flexible in what you're doing there. Two other thoughts I'd like to leave you with as I look through here quickly. One of the other things that's really not part of a discussion of timing that I want to bring it up anyway is that you really have to do your homework from how are you planning your tips, how are you planning your dance, what do you know about formation management, moving dancers, because let's face it, good timing assumes you know what you're going to call next. If you as a caller are searching for, gee, I'm not sure what the next call to give those dancers is, you can't possibly call a smooth dance and a smooth time dance. And so I just want to leave you with the thought that you really need to think about those other aspects. You really need to spend your time with thinking about how to use your choreography, how to understand formations, a whole other topic that's really not part of what we're trying to do today, but you just can't separate it completely. If you don't have that technical aspect of the calling profession down, you may understand timing, but you won't be able to use timing. And so I think at that point, the last thought is also when you walk into a hall to do a dance and you've got it all planned out, something I learned long ago, there's the dance you plan to do, there's the dance that you actually did, and then on your way home there's the dance you should have called. I think we all know that. And the point of that is have a plan, follow it, but be flexible. Be able to use judgment and make adjustments and so that you can watch what's happening on the floor. If you're successful, you're going to be able to both see and feel timing. You're going to be able to watch the dancers' feet on the floor, and you're going to see unison out there. And you're going to hear on a nice wooden floor at least, a nice even swish, 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 everybody just moving with the music. And if you hear and sense that, then I think you understand what timing is, and I'll stop there.
Thank you, Larry. Larry Davenport. All right. As I said, when we're talking about smooth dancing, one of the elements is indeed timing, and Larry, and some of the more technical side of smooth dancing. Now, Jeanette is going to talk about some things that are a little more nebulous, and some things that I think a lot of new callers especially do not consider when they think of smooth dancing. So without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, Jeanette Staeuble.
Hold on 2 seconds. This way. Thank you very much. It's like Jerry said in the introduction, our activity is called square dancing, not square executing. So we should dance the calls and not execute the calls. Timing was just done by Larry. This is one of the components, and the other important component is body flow. If you look in the technical supplement of the caller guidelines, it says the movements must be physically comfortable, allowing dancers to move in natural ways. So it must be physically comfortable to move to the music. This is what body flow is about. And there are some elements we're going to look in this session, in my part of the session, what influences this part, what influences body flow. After that, we also take a short look at that we can use body flow for dancer success, to get dancers successfully through maybe a little bit more difficult kind of choreography and make them easier to get through. Alright, let's start with the elements in body flow. To make good body flow, a lot of different elements must be alright. And I think I would like to have a demo square right on now. It's just easier to show and explain than just to explain without showing some. I hope you don't mind. And also, like Larry said before, I don't think the beginning with music. Larry said before, if I don't bring you home, I apologize right now. It's not part of the presentation. Let's start with the body position. the position at the end of a call must blend in the position of the starting position for the next call. And if dancers have to do adjustments, it's not smooth. Element left to corner. Do, side, do. Hit, square, through. That's not so smooth. They have to adjust and go in. Not so smooth. Okay, face in again. Back out. Let's look at something else. Another thing is if you do the side, star through. If you do now a square through 3, but don't let go on the last hand. Right, left, and just keep the right hand. You might see that if you're pulling by, the body is slightly adjust, pull by, but don't let go. The body is slightly adjust to the left. So a right shoulder move would be the next best move. They're slightly adjust. So a do would be actually very good flow from kind of body positioning. If you want to do an element left here, then you should call it earlier. Then they can adjust. So after a right pull by, the body slightly adjusts to the left, so a right shoulder move is good to keep on, or slide through would have been good. This is what body position is about. Let's talk about the hand availability. The required hand when we're calling must be available. So it must be ready for use. Let me see how to get easiest. Send us California twirl. Okay. Do a star through, right and left through, back away, and I can work with the heads again. I think it's easier to show what I wanted to show. Head square through 4, right? So which hand is available after the square through? 4. Right hand is available. So a movement, if I use a hand movement, should be a right-handed movement, like swing through. Boy run. Ferris wheel. Square through 3. Swing through. Which hand was available? The left was available. I used the right hand. Did it feel good? Good. Thank you. Okay. Boy run. Wheel and deal. And there's another thing. The call roll away of the sachet family requires the inside hand, right? To do a roll away. Everybody, roll away. Easy, right? Half sachet. Boys in front. Others. Okay. Do a half sachet now. The boys go in front and go back where you were. Sorry. Now, if you do a right and left through, do this, please. Right and left through, and don't let go of the hand hold. Which hand is now available for the lady? On demand. It's not the inside hand they have, right? They have a courtesy turn position. So I'll think, because of this, a half sachet, letting the right-hand dancer going in front of the left-hand dancer, is much smoother than letting them doing a roll away, forcing, for instance, this lady to use their hand in here. Because the man's inside hand is in the back. So it's much smoother, I think, using a half sachet from here than a roll away. Before I said, I wanted to emphasize the point when you have the handholds inside hand joint, you can use roll away. If you do not have the inside hand joints, you should use half sachet. Alright, everybody do a half sachet again, so the boys go in front, hopefully, and you're back. Good. Right and left through. There's a big danger in the whole thing, dive through. And the point is that sometimes the hand available is good for part of the dancers, maybe for the man, and not good for the lady, or vice versa. Square through 3. Think what you feel. Man, star through. Perfect for the ladies, I think. But the man had to use the right hand twice. He did the square through 3, he did the pull by, had to get it back in front again for the star through. So, be aware of this, always. Look at all 8 dancers. It's dangerous just to see 4 out of 8, they do good, but the other 4 don't do good. This takes away on smoothness. Another thing, it's important, especially if you call for a crowded floor, space availability. Step to a tidal wave. I mean, this is good now, we have 1 square. It's easy to do it now. But think if you would have a crowded floor. Anything in tidal formations, like tidal wave, tidal line, it's not so comfortable to dance. Right and left through. Just get out here. Flutter wheel. Let's again, sweep a quarter. Reverse flutter wheel. It's getting tight now. Ladies chain is not so good either because it's very roll away, and I think this is even not good because it's the space is not there. I might said before to the dancers, I apologize for calling bad flow, but it's the way of doing. If I see a red card, I maybe done too much of bad flow. So space availability. Don't try to avoid calling this like ladies chains flutter wheel if you're on A chain through. If you're in the line of 4, it's perfect. Star through. Everybody, California twirl. Right and left through. Ladies chain, perfect to flow. Perfect space available.
Yeah, can we get you on the microphone, please? California twirl. After the California twirl, the right and left through did not flow real well. Comment?
I mean, this is maybe a gray area of this thing. I think the hand is available for right and left through. There would be maybe a reverse flutter wheel would be nicer. That's what I think, but I wanted to actually do the ladies chain afterwards, so I just did the right and left through. I think let's stay with this. I think every once in a while we get into a gray area, which maybe I think it's not smooth enough, and other person thinks it's smooth enough. So we leave this gray area maybe better out. Let's look at another thing, at the body momentum. If a body is in motion, would like to stay in motion. Let's look at an example. Pass through. Right, John's, yeah. Wheel and deal. Double pass through. Centers in. Bend the line. Right? Everybody who hurts. Everybody sees this. This is totally against body momentum. There are some other ones which are maybe not so easy to see because it's just bad for 2 out of 8. Everybody star through. Let's see to get this the easiest. Pass through. Star through again. Don't care for flow right now. Pass through. Bend the line. I want to have you this way. Star through again. Touch a quarter. We're getting close now. Watch the center 2 man now. Walk and dodge. Bend the line. For the others, I think it was more or less all right. But for center 2 man, it was an absolutely backup. Forward and back up again. So we need to be careful in watching this. This is always a danger. You watch 2 dancers, they do very well. But the other 2 of them do not right. Keep that in mind. That's another thing.
But the way you called it, by giving it the command for walk and dodge a little sooner, allowed us to adjust and make a good, a passable situation out of a bad flow, in other words.
Well, yeah. I mean, we have no music for this, or maybe we should put on music for this example. I'm not sure how it feels then, because I think star through, right and left through, and turn a girl around, do a touch a quarter now, walk and dodge, bend the line up to the middle and back. Well, but it's not smooth. Even if you adjust, it's no smooth dancing. If you have to adjust this thing, it's not good. There's another one, I think especially for the ladies, not so nice. I hear it every once in a while. Star through. Veer left. Dancers maybe learn to adjust, but for the lady, after the star through, she has to reverse direction. Bend the line. Star through. Why not calling... Well, okay, right and left through, veer left. After the star through, I just did before. I think better flow. Veer left, yeah. So we need to be also here, like before, aware that all 8 of the dancers have a good flow. If you just care for 6, it's not smooth anymore. There's another thing, and I would like to have music now. This is the anticipation of dancers. Let me just say. Do a couple circulate. Chain down the line and turn the girl and up. Star through. Dive through. And the center square through 3. Here comes the corner. Do a left swing through and then. Alright. Was not so nice because I give him the thinking that I come to an element left. Put it on again for one more example. Girl, run around the boy. Bend the line. Dance up to the middle and back. Star through. Right, left through and turn the girl. Dive through, Center's California twirl. Dancers want to work with the person in front. They do not want to work in that moment after the dive through with the person beside. So please don't work against this kind of anticipation. I think this is really no good dancing at all. This is just working against what the dancers want to do. They want to dance with the person they are walking towards or the person in front. Keep that in mind. There's another important point, but this is a point we can mostly influence when teaching, not influence so much during calling, and this is the so-called counter dancing. Let's step to a wave. And just for trying purposes, just drop your hands and do a swing through without hands. Well, it's movable, but is this nice to dance? I don't think so. If you now get back to the maybe upper hand hold, it's easier for me because I'm used to that in Europe. And if you turn your palm a little bit towards you, this is obviously right there. And if you now use this as a centrifuge, as a counterpart, you kind of feel the resistance and turn around this hand hold. It's much nicer to dance because you kind of wait out the centrifugal force, or however you say this in English, difficult word. So do a swing through that way, just feel the resistance. I think this is something the dancers need to be taught doing that, because this makes the difference between dancing and executing calls, in my opinion. Recycle. All right. Sorry, can't explain this for the tape. Dive through. Square through 3. That's not a part of counter dancing. The inactives have to work together with the actives. Split the outside. No, the inactives have to make space. Separate around 1. Come down the middle, pass through. Separate around 1. Come down the middle. Okay. And this is also part of counter dancing. The inactives have to think what the active's doing and help. Center square through 3. Get the left hand ready, do a left touch a quarter. This is also being aware of which hand they have to dance after the square through 3. These 3 things in counter dancing, but we mainly can influence them with teaching, not when we call for a whole floor. We can't do much about this in that moment. Now let's go back to a point we can influence while calling. A very important point, it's the so-called overflow. And this normally happens if you try to work with the body momentum, but doing too much of a good thing, because you're turning too much in the same direction. And it says everything more than 3/4 turn is called overflow. Now let's get easier. Boys, you turn back. We have normal lines then. Pass the ocean. Spin the top. Fan the top. Center straight. All right. Okay, 3/4, 1.5, 2 full turns. Dancers get disoriented because they don't know where the call finishes and where the next call starts. Boy, run. Bend the line. Star through. Okay. Now there's another one I hear quite frequently. Touch a quarter. Swing through. This is absolutely overflow. Center straight. Boy, run. Star through. While not doing it, touch a quarter. Center straight. Swing through. Right. Same thing goes actually, I'm not sure I'd have to show it, for Dixie style into a left swing through. Right? Let's show it. Girls, you turn back. Just the easiest way to get back. Right and left through. Dixie style. Left swing through. We would have inserted a center straight, which have been much, much more comfortable. Where am I now in my too many notes? All right, there's another subsection of overflow, and that's square you said. It's the easiest way for me to get home where you started. I can't resolve that right now, so it's easier that way. And I would like to have music, and I'd like to ask you to watch the headman. It's actually good flow, what I'm calling. Well now, heads you square through. Touch quarter, scoot back, boy go in. Wait, boy run, past the ocean. Recycle, wheel left, couple circulate, and then Ferris wheel. And a double pass through, and the leader's partner trade, and then nothing. Okay, thank you. You maybe have watched them, you've seen that they walk all the way to the right. The movements itself are not a problem. If I say touch a quarter, scoot back, this is good flow, right? No problem with this. If you have done...
Did everybody see what she did? Did everybody see the continual right hand? Did you see the right hand flow to it? Anybody not see it? Anybody not see it? Okay.
I was on the head
All right.
The reason I ask is you see this a lot. That's not The reason I ask is you see that a great deal, and I want everybody to be assured or sure they saw all the right hand flow there. You ever wonder why you leave a dance some nights and one leg hurts and the other one doesn't? You didn't get to go both ways. And what she is bringing out is a very good point that I don't think a lot of us are aware of. We do a lot of right hand choreography, and I'm guilty of it as anybody else. And be aware that that exists. Run that sequence again, just so they see it, please.
All right, boy run. Let's put star through. Are you now at home? Element left first, and then I think you could be home, as I guess. Close enough, at least. Okay, close enough. Let's do it for the side, man, just for Kip's sake, so he can... Head square through. Okay. Undo. Okay, undo. I'm very sorry. Now, side square through. We can do it that way, I think. Touch a quarter. Scoot back. Boy, you wanna go and then past the ocean now. Recycle. Rear left. And a couple circulate, and then Ferris wheel around you go. And a double pass through, and the leaders do a partner trade. Star through, reverse flutter wheel. I hope this helps. Star through, and then element left, and I think you should be this time at home. All right.
Notice one of the little things she did right at the end that solved all that problem was a simple thing like a reverse flutter that gave them a left-hand turn, that gave them just a little change of direction, but made a huge change in how they felt, in the feel of the dance. That's a really nice point. Go ahead.
Yeah, habit of sequential overflow. But first would like to maybe... I have a few calls which set an alarm flag in my head when I call them, because they are kind of addicted to sequential overflow because of the call's nature. Sweep a quarter is one of them. If you call sweep a quarter, you're already going further in the same direction you are turning. So you better should change flow after that. Couple circulate, like we've seen. Ferris wheel. These big, long movements. But if you go to plus, we have a lot. Track 2 is one. Linear cycle is... do you all dance plus? Yes? All right. All right, step into the middle and face your corner. It's the easier way. Normally we do this in mainstream, but it's really a call which has a lot of overflow already itself. Step to a wave. Now watch the dances. Linear cycle. That's already much. And if I do pass through, that's it. Partner trade. It's keeping on going in this direction. Or touch a quarter and then do coordinate, for instance. Okay. All right, coordinate. This is even, it's always the same way, always to the right. So these are dangerous calls. You just need to keep in mind, and maybe do a tag the line from now. Face left, and now we changed it. A little bit at least. These are the calls, which I think we have to be very aware of, that like popping up a flag saying, oh, I need to be aware now of sequential overflow. There are ways to break this flow. Everybody bend the line. We just look at them. Star through. If you have centers trading calls, it breaks. Touch a quarter. Centers trade. Breaks. Swing through. It's a right and it's a left. It breaks. Scoot back. Okay, with the right again. Boy run. So if you have any call, swing through. Don't do it. No, I just say the calls. Excuse me. Don't worry that you have to dance over what I say right now. It maybe doesn't fit. I will swing through, left swing through, center straight, spin the top. These all calls break overflow in general. If you change between right-handed and left-handed choreography, like do a pass the ocean, boy run, couple circulate, we just go now the other way, breaks, sequential overflow. Changing arrangements also helps breaking overflow. Bend the line, half sachet, girls in front, perfect. Pass the ocean, boys should be in the middle. Boy trade, yeah. Swing through. Girl round, we still have sachet. Might be a bit more, we add to the degree of difficulty, but it breaks sequential overflow. Right, other calls, just naming them, to break the flow to the right, what we have most often is right and left, all courtesy turn type actions. Okay, bend the line, box the net, right and left through. See the man goes the other way. This breaks sequential overflow. So ladies chain down the line, and some more of these call break. Also reverse flutter wheel. Let's do this call. Doesn't maybe fit to the flow before. Breaks sequential overflow because it goes the other way for the man. To the left, we can use all touch a quarter, turn through type of things. Or we can use flutter wheel to break the other overflow. If we call a lot of left-handed material, we need to break this flow too. It's normally more harder for the ladies to dance because it goes always to the left, but we have to break this too. For me, sequential overflow, I think, as I started calling, it was one of my big failures because I tried to call good flow and forgot that all goes to the one direction. So this we should try to keep in mind because it looks perfect, the flow, if you're not really constantly watching one person going just one way. All right, I'm ready. How much of time left? Okay. There's a thing actually Larry said before, which an element in body flow is the familiarity with calls. How familiar are the dancers with the calls? Are they freshly new graduated people? Or are they experienced dancers? If you have a mixed flow, it's very difficult. For the new dancers, anything a bit more complicated or more variety makes it for them harder to dance. If you call harder choreography, if you increase the degree of difficulty, it becomes harder to dance too. So just keep this in mind. Also floor conditions maybe doesn't make it so smooth to dance here with this flow. It's very difficult to really kind of gliding step on this floor. As a last point, I would like to take the thing a little bit further. We have looked now at the elements of what makes flow good or bad. But we can also look how we can use the flow and help dancers to get through material, to use the flow for dancer success. Okay, let's just put music on for a second, and I just show two things. And then lines up to the middle and come on back. Pixie style to an ocean wave. It worked, but it's not so fun, right? Boy trade. Left swing through. Girl run. Bend the line. Right and left through and turn a goal. And now Dixie style ocean wave. This was, right? This was encouraging the flow, encouraging them, you bring them to dance this thing. Boy trade. Boy run. Couple circulate. Bend Bend the line, flat the wheel, boy in. We just forced the boys to go the right way with body flow. It worked. Box the net. Right, left, through. Turn the girl and now. Turn the girl a quarter more. Couples circulate. I didn't want to do this. Bend the line, doesn't help. Star through, let's touch a quarter. Girl run. Reverse, flat the wheel, the girls go in. Just trust the flow. Box the net. Slide through. Let's do this again. Touch a quarter. And the center straight. Swing through. Girl run. Reverse, flat the wheel. The girls go in. Just they can follow their flow. Box the net. Right and left through and turn the girl. Dixie style ocean. That was my mistake. Boy trade. Boy run. Bend the line, reverse, flat the wheel, I meant. Okay, I messed this up. I messed this up now. I'm a little bit nervous too, okay. Box the net. Let's do this again. Right and left through and turn the girl. Dixie style ocean wave. Boy trade. Boy run. Couples circulate. Bend the line, flat the wheel, boy in. Reverse, flat the wheel, girl in. Half sashay, the boy in front. Just follow your body. Okay, I think this is enough on examples, but you need to train the dancers to trust your body flow. And then you can get them to follow this, because from the flow, it's very easy. If you do a reverse flat wheel, everybody, please, do a half sashay. It's good flow, isn't it? All right, let's do it for the, starting without flow, but for the girls, start the girls a reverse flat wheel. Girls, use your left hand, pick up the boy. Half sashay, the boy go in front now. You can teach the dancers to dance this, and then you can kind of add a little bit more of variety to your calling and helping them through with good flow. And this makes the whole thing smoother dancing. I think this was it for my part. Thank you very much for the dancers. And give back to you, Jerry.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, she's from Zurich, Switzerland. Give Jeanette Staeuble a nice hand. One of the things that I always admire about people from foreign countries who try calling and who get into this activity is I think all of us need to understand that not only do they have to learn the skills necessary to become a caller, but they have a language barrier. And remember that they are translating into our language, and I admire that to no end. I really do. If I don't know how many callers from overseas are here, but I admire that to no end, the desire to learn to call. And I think all of us could learn from them to perfect our skills to the point that some of them have. And Jeanette, you did a nice job. Thank you. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. Larry did too, and Larry talked about the technical side of this thing called smooth dancing. And smooth dancing, yes, has a technical side. It has a side that maybe is a little more nebulous that we don't think about. But smooth dancing, smooth calling, timing is almost more of a feel than it is something technical. It's something that you acquire by watching the dancers. You have to see dancers move. You have to be able to control your delivery. And it required something that a word that Larry used, that you can't teach in a caller school, and it's called judgment. I can give you everything in a caller school, but judgment. That has to come from yourself, and that has to come from your desire, your passion for the activity, how you're going to present your material. Are you there for the dancers? Are you there for you? That comes down to judgment, and it can't be taught. So when you're talking about smooth dancing, you're talking about timing. It's a difficult thing to divine also, made up of command time, the time necessary to give a call, lead time, the time the dancers react need to react to the call, execution time, the time necessary to actually execute the call. Larry made one comment I was going to talk about, and there may be some disagreements on this, but I'm curious for your thoughts. He said most calls you can call in a 2-beat, you call as 2 beats, swing through, boys run. I maintain that all of them are actually that way. And somebody say, well, what about spin chain through? You'll say spin chain, they start to move on the spin chain. And by the time they're moving, you've gotten to through, or you've gotten to exchange the gears. They have already started moving on the 2 count. Relay the. They're already starting to move, even though you haven't done deucey. So I maintain that all of them actually, when you think about it, actually come down to 2 beats. You can agree or disagree. Doesn't matter. That's my opinion. Okay. You bet. Timing is a balancing act between these 3 elements, and it's also affected by a complete knowledge of the choreography to be called, your definitions, an ability to watch the dancers, your awareness of formations, your knowledge of where these calls are going to take you. What formation do I get if I call spin the top? What formation am I going to get? You have to know that before they're there. Otherwise, you'll get this stop and go that Larry was talking about. That stop and go comes from the fact, and we had a guy in our color school a couple of years ago. He'd call something and he'd go, ooh, good. And then he'd have to think about something else. You need to know where that call is going to go. And you need to know what you're going to do after it. You don't have time to think about it after you call it. You've got to know that beforehand. You have to understand body flow, which is what Jeanette talked about, kinesiology, motion, bodies in motion. It's supposed to be dancing. I think you need to think a lot about your music. Music tells people what to dance. It is the most important thing of our activity, and I think probably the thing we concentrate on the least. The thing we don't think about. To a lot of callers, music becomes background noise. Music is what we move to. And it's something that, quite frankly, I don't think we give enough thought to. Listen to the really top callers, and what do you hear in their dance? Man, what a record. What a tune. They think constantly about their music. It's part of smooth dancing. I will get some flack for this. I'm looking at the guy that I'm looking at Mr. Garvey, who looks like my brother from the side. I firmly believe this. I think in order to have good timing, good smooth dancing, I think we have to have a willingness to give up some part of the choreographic puzzle in order to allow dancers to experience the enjoyment of dancing to music. That's my belief. That's my opinion. I don't expect everybody to share that. I do believe we have to use some judgment in how far we take the degree of difficulty. Mr. Garvey.
Hi, I'm Kip Garvey from Fremont, California, and I look like his brother from the side view, neck up only. So I've heard the tape now, and I've picked up all the vocabulary. I know about command timing, and I know about body flow, and kinesiology, and nebulous. It's a good word. So what I need to know is, I'm going to ask Jeanette first, and then maybe Larry can comment. How do I develop this? What do I do to make this part of my presentation?
Well, I think they exist call analysis sheet. And I think you should work each call through. Look where it starts, where it ends, which possibilities formation arrangement exist, and also the flow. What is the flow for the dancers? Which hand are needed for the call? Which hand are available after the call? I think CALLERLAB has this call analysis sheet. It's this one here. And I filled it out for most of the calls, just to give me an idea, and then go through the... I need a mainstream list. Go through the mainstream list, I found it here, excuse me, and see which calls you can comfortably call afterwards. how can you enhance the call? Like in Dixie style, you can use a right and left through before to enhance, to make it easier for the dancers to go through the call. Those are my ideas, I think, help work this through.
I don't know that I can really add a whole lot to that, except to agree wholeheartedly that spending a lot of time with analyzing the calls, a lot of time with understanding formation awareness, formation management, how to move dancers through formations. When you get to the resolve portion of your choreography, to know how to pick up the dancers you're looking for and move them with good flow to that resolution. It's a lot of homework, and I think the other thing that was said, that you have to watch your dancers on the floor as well. If you're just watching a pilot square and letting the rest of the floor go, you may call a great dance to the pilot square, but you're going to leave a lot of unhappy people. That's assuming that the pilot square is your best square. And everybody else can't keep up. If your pilot square is not your best square, you're going to still leave a lot of unhappy people because they didn't dance all night where you're trying to pick up your pilot square that's having some difficulty. But watching the floor, watching the dancers, making adjustments, and I don't know how you learn the judgment aspect of it either. But through all of that work, you should build up a sense of what's going to work and what's not going to work, and I think that's part of the basis for how you build up your judgment.
Very good. Chuck?
A good practice way is to tape your own dance and dance to it, because that'll certainly tell you body flow errors or overflow. And second point, talk to your partner and ask her how it dances from the woman's part. Because most of the time, us guys are always thinking how it does for the man's part. We're not thinking ladies. So talk to your partner and dance to your own tape.
You bet. All right, there'll be some more questions here. I'm going to touch on this just a second. Come on up, sir, and then you'll be ready. That's fine. We talked about the timing thing. Jeanette talked about choreographic flow. It's the art of combining square dance movements into logical, smooth-flowing patterns, and it determines the difference between dancing and purely performing groups of calls. There's a huge difference. Momentum is the first part of choreographic flow. She talked about body flow. It's momentum, moving forward. I like to see people with their wind in their face. That's the term that I use. Dancers make far fewer mistakes and tire less quickly when the calls move smoothly from one call to the next. There's just no doubt about that. Body mechanics, she talked about where the bodies are vis-a-vis each other in the square. Hand usage, hand availability, all very important things. Something neither one of them touched on that I think we need to give some credence to is conscious or unconscious anticipation. I feel, contrary to popular belief, anticipation is not necessarily a negative. And I mean that sincerely. I think some anticipation is necessary for dancers to enjoy moving and dancing to music. One example of conscious anticipation would be from lines of 4, forward and back you reel, pass through, wheel and deal. Let's give them a chance. Unconscious anticipation is maybe less apparent, but just as important. Such a call might be Dixie style to a wave. The next call begs to be a center's trade or a center's run, not a left swing through. It's an unconscious anticipation, but the body motion begs you to do something with that other hand. She talked about center's trade. There's an unconscious thing in the body. If you use the right hand, use the left hand, or vice versa. And that unconscious anticipation is so important to make things smoother. Other things that affect body flow are overflow, crowded floors, things like that. There are so many things that are variables that directly or indirectly affect the sensation of dancing. Tempo, degree of difficulty, overflow, space availability, timing, body flow, conscious, unconscious anticipation. All these impact the dancer experience. It's a caller's goal to provide a smooth and enjoyable experience for the dancers. It requires all of us to be aware of all of these variables to some degree and make a conscious effort to control them. All these elements in combination with music give the overall sensation of smooth dancing. And I always like to wind up with Daryl Clendenin's famous statement. Timing, or smooth dancing, timing is a feel much more, or as much as it is a mechanical ability to count the number of beats. It includes body flow and hand usage. But timing is like money. You spend it just before you made it. Think about it. And that's a fact. And I'm going to ask this gentleman to state your name and your question, please.
Okay, Rod Chupin from Lancaster. Actually, it was more of a comment to Kip Garvey about what to use. And the one gentleman answered a little bit of it about dancing to your own tapes. Actually, dancing, period, to different callers. Dancing as much as possible to remember what felt right, what felt wrong, and remember it and then apply it to what you do.
And what Rod just said is something that I see all of us as callers, and I'll count myself in this. All of us as callers don't dance enough, and I'm guilty of that as anybody. I don't understand that. Used to be when I was starting to call and when I still had clubs at home. Man, if somebody called in a club from away from there, first thing I did is called a whole bunch of dancers. We went over there. Not because I wanted to criticize this guy or tear his dance apart. I wanted to see, what did he do right? Did he do something that was, oh man, this was neat? How did it flow? And, oh, he called this call, and man, I've been having trouble with it. How did he get into it? How did he get out of it? That's how you get better. What did he do right? Don't ever go to criticize somebody. What did this guy do right? Because it'll help you. I don't like criticism. I think it's counterproductive. I really do. But what did the good guy do right? And every one of us does something right. Every one of us has something that the rest of us could draw from. And I believe that firmly. Any other questions before I shut this off? Clark Baker. Oh, you, sir. This gentleman was first. Come on. You had your hand up earlier. Clark, come on up.
Hi, I'm Dave Walker from Tucson, Arizona. First, I'd like to say I enjoyed everything that's been presented today. There's a couple of things that I do when I go into a dance, especially if I don't know who the dancers are, is look for the smooth dancers on that first tip. I like to find the smooth dancers. I have the luxury of having Herb Eggener dance in one of my clubs in Green Valley. He's like a metronome. You call Graham Square, the rest of that square maybe look like they're having a fire drill, but he is doing it right to the beat. And there's your timing right there. The other thing is prompting. I believe in prompting the dancers so they all win. But prompting can also cause the dance not to be smooth if you're not careful with your prompting. If you don't prompt correctly, give them a chance so you can get on to the next move. The prompt is too long, you've just stopped the smoothness of the dance. So all of these things, there's a ton of them, and I really appreciate everything you presented today. Thank you, Jerry.
Clark Baker.
The best way I've been to lots of these conventions and heard people talk about timing and the phrase of the music. The best way I've been able to acquire some ability to hear the phrase of the music is to go contra dancing, because the music's very strongly phrased. I find that transfers over to my modern Western calling. Second comment is when Jeanette was calling, she was focusing on the smoothness and the choreography, and occasionally when I was dancing, her timing wasn't perfect, and that's okay. But what I do, and what I see a lot of dancers do, is you'll come along and do a little jog step for 2 beats, and then you'll keep right on going. Your feet have been moving continuously. When I've talked to dancers on tips I've called that I know the timing wasn't great, and I had to pause and wait for a square or something, and I ask them, well, what do you think of the timing? Were you stop and go? What do you feel? Their answer, surprisingly to me, was no. And if you watch them dance, and they're good dancers, they'll do this little jog step, and then they keep on going. So I'm not advocating bad timing and doing that all the time, but we should realize that a perfectly timed tip where there was not one spare beat of music in there is not necessarily the only way to have the dancers perceive that you have good timing. A third comment I had, and this is kind of my real question. So a typical dance for me, I have 4 squares. I have 2 up front, 2 in the back. I'm either sight calling it, and I'm getting my timing from the dancers, or I'm calling written material, and again, I'm getting my timing from the dancers. If I'm lucky, I've used numbers to mix them around, so I don't have the good dancers up front and the bad dancers in the back. invariably I will find there's one square that's always a bit slower, needs a bit more time to accomplish the calls I'm calling. And I either have to focus on the slowest square and get my sight timing from them and leave some of the other squares with some stop and go, or I can call off an intermediate square and the slow square will kind of drift behind and probably make a mistake and die and wait for the next element left. Or I can call off the square that happened to have the better, faster dancers in the front or in the back, and then I'll lose 1 to 3 other squares. So I guess I'm interested from a timing perspective, since that was half this talk. What do you do in a situation like that?
What I do in a situation like that is I'll use some calls that, such as a do-si-do or forward and backs, so that I can keep the rest of the floor moving with the music while allowing that slower square to have a chance to get there, that type of thing.
That would have been my comment. I use forward and back probably more than I should, but that's the purpose in that. Jim, you look like you have a question.
Not so much a question as an observation. I am a strong advocate of good close timing, but I went once to my very first A2 dance. I'd been calling the program for a while, but I hadn't ever danced it. And I went to a dance and found, to my considerable surprise, that even though I recognized there were timing delays in the caller's presentation, I needed that extra time. And it didn't feel as though I was being rushed or that it was stop and go for me, because my thinking time was longer than a normal experienced dancer's would have been. I was very surprised to find that the sense of continuous movement was there for me, even though technically, because I've talked about it so much, I knew that the timing was stop and go. The degree of difficulty has a great deal to do with the sense of smooth dancing.
The degree of difficulty makes me think of something else that I do that I just want to mention. In addition to use of do-si-dos or use of forward and back, if I'm working on a particular sequence and I notice that certain dancers, certain squares are not going to make it, I will change the degree of difficulty to an easier bit of choreography that is going to keep it going, but is going to again help that those other squares. They're not going to fall apart on what I had originally intended on calling. Now they're going to make it through what I've shifted to, so I'll use that type of a technique as well.
Hey guys, we're right up to 12 o'clock. This has been very well attended. I want you to give Larry Davenport and Jeanette Staeuble a really nice hand. I'm very sincere when I feel that we've lost a lot of dancers because we've not been considered enough and not been cognizant enough of smooth dancing. I thank you for coming here, and we sincerely hope you got a lot out of it. And there are handouts up here. Please come and pick them up. Handouts on everything we've talked about. Jeanette has a complete handout on hers.